With breaking news on an investigation into the deaths of a husband and wife near Wadena, police have identified the couple as Isaac and Ariel Malone. Police say Isaac shot and killed his wife, then took his own life. It happened Friday night in rural Compton Township. The deaths were ruled suspicious at that time. Autopsies have now been completed and confirmed that it was a murder-suicide. And new information just into our newsroom. The man who died in an officer-involved shooting in central Minnesota was from Fergus Falls. He's been identified as 59-year-old Charles Francis Bangs. Another man, Michael Johnson, was injured by gunfire during the April 28th stop. According to a report, the West Central Drug Task Force was attempting to find Bangs as part of a narcotics investigation. Police say after troopers stopped his car, Johnson refused to get out and Bangs started a pursuit. A substance suspected to be meth was thrown out of the vehicle, but it was recovered for testing. Law enforcement caught up with the vehicle near Bolus, Minnesota, but officers weren't able to stop it. Two officers, Trooper Megan Bozier and Deputy Dale Haberer, shot at the suspects. Body cameras and a squad camera captured parts of that incident. The BCA will provide their findings to the state's attorney for review. Police have now released the name of the suspect arrested for terrorizing in Grand Forks. They say 27-year-old Jared Adams followed a woman into a secure apartment building and asked to use her phone. They say he then went into her apartment and assaulted her before running away. Police arrested Adams for kidnapping, terrorizing, felonious restraint, and simple assault. It all happened yesterday morning in the 2600 block of 13th Avenue South. The investigation is ongoing, but officials say there is no threat to the public. To the forecast, we're watching river levels after more rain this weekend. Here's an aerial view of Minto. Lots of overland flooding in that area with water pushing up to many houses. The baseball diamonds are fully submerged. Let's pitch it over to Hutch now for the latest. Hutch.
All right, Stacy, thanks so much and good Monday afternoon. We're enjoying some quieter weather today, and rainfall amounts in the James River Valley and the Cheyenne River Valley were the largest, with 2 to 4+ inches of rainfall as we went through the Friday through Sunday time frame. And here is another look at that shot there in the Minto area. Chris, thanks so much for taking the time to upload all of your photos there. And again, in the Pembina area, you not only have that Red River making its way through, but the Pembina River working its way into your region as well. It's expected to continue rising, so you'll have a battle on your hand for the better part of the week with, cresting taking place into the weekend. It's going to be a long week. We have some good news in the forecast as far as additional rain goes. Now, when you're traveling from I-29 from the Pembina area straight down to Grand Forks, about 20 miles or so north of Grand Forks, not far from Oslo, we have water overtaking I-29. So you got to take that slow. That river is going to remain high all week as well, and will be a challenge north of Grand Forks. Now, that Cheyenne River will still be a problem once it exits Valley City, where it's coming down. Kindred, Harwood, your areas will continue to see the flood fight go on, where we're expecting moderate flood stage as we go into the Hillsborough area as we go through late week. Your forecast tonight looks breezy, cloudy, dry with some patchy areas of fog out there, and then some much better news as we head through the next 7 days. Details on all of that here in a few minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Hutch. Across the country, strong storms generated an EF3 tornado that ripped through parts of Kansas. Homes were torn apart and personal items, some irreplaceable, now lay scattered in the aftermath. As people clean up the wreckage, they reflect on the massive tornado caught by many on their phone cameras and shared on social media as a reminder of the force of nature that we'll likely see again this season. Veterans are on their way home, but not before one last stop at the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. and a group photo. Today marked the end of a whirlwind tour for the honor flight for North Dakota and Minnesota vets. 85 of them, and double that number in support staff, finished up their trip to see several memorials in Washington, D.C., and they're about to head home.
Too many people that I knew from World War II, my relatives and stuff, and it's very important for It's really moving out here, and then to have a beautiful day on top of it. It's fantastic. It honors the people that need to be honored. Oh, it was well worth it. I brought along a couple guys here. We enjoyed it very much.
Valley News Team's Mike Morkin is traveling with the group. They'll be returning home to Hector Airport at approximately 6 o'clock tonight. We're planning to be there live during our newscast as many gather inside the airport to welcome them back home. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz today signed a ceremonial bill celebrating frontline workers and small business owners doing all they can to help the state get through the pandemic. The bill celebrated the passage of a bill which sent payments to frontline workers and replenished the unemployment trust fund. It also provided tax relief for small businesses.
This group of legislators, leaders, and advocates up here found a way to reach a compromise that served our frontline workers, our small businesses, and continue to deal with the COVID pandemic.
Today marks the start of Mental Health Awareness Month. President Biden and the White House say they've seen the pandemic exacerbate mental health struggles, especially in young people. Adam Duxter shares how high school students are fighting back while raising awareness in New Brighton.
If no one ever hears you.
Through music, art, and a charity walk at Long Lake Park, Mountain View High School students are taking a step to address a problem.
What we've noticed is that a lot of our adults in our lives have a harder time talking about mental illness, and there's a lot of shame that goes around just talking about the experiences that you've had.
Seniors Maddie Terwilliger and Marian Sirk-Cerisi know it's a tough conversation, but
the more people that talk about it, the better it gets.
For these teens, making a difference is as simple as a walk in the park. Something they admit the last few years hasn't been.
Being in isolation and having just like a global nationwide unrest, I think it's created a lot of anxieties in people's lives, and I think a lot of people have struggled with that mentally, and especially with the isolation.
Suicide, the second leading cause of death for people their age, according to the CDC.
What's going on? Is this depression?
Which is why they're raising awareness while raising funds for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention through a charity walk and by sharing stories about how things like anxiety and depression have impacted their lives.
You see when you talk to people around you that a lot of other people are struggling with similar things, and that it's not just you, and it really helps people to see that they're not alone in their struggles.
Demonstrated by the different colored beads, a way to represent if your life has been impacted by suicide.
If one person could see all of the people that are here gathered to support them and feel safe and feel like they are being heard and represented, and that maybe next time that they're struggling they can reach out.
Something they hope is a step in the right direction. Adam Duxter, WCCO 4 News.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention says it's trying to make a difference in mental health awareness by getting the number for the suicide hotline in Minnesota changed to just 3 digits, 988. They hope to accomplish that during this current legislative session. The congressional committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol has won a legal challenge brought forth by the Republican Party, and it got legal backing for the legitimacy of the committee as well. A Trump-appointed federal judge has ruled against the Republican National Committee on their claims that the election had been fraudulent or stolen. Judge Kelly also rejected the RNC's legal arguments that the January 6th committee isn't legitimate, saying Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney serves as the GOP's ranking member, giving its subpoenas legitimacy. Next month, the committee will launch public hearings talking about its investigation. Meanwhile, severe staff shortages made worse after the January 6th attack is forcing the Capitol to outsource duties normally handled by Capitol Police. The head of the Capitol Police announced contractors known as Capitol Security Officers will be used to, quote, free up the USCP officers to focus on their critical mission to protect the Capitol. Capitol Security Officers who are not sworn officers will be unarmed and will not wear police uniforms. Russia continues its assault in eastern Ukraine, but images of hope are emerging as rescued civilians from a steel plant made their way to safety. Deborah Alfarone has more from the White House.
American diplomats returned to Ukraine Monday, holding a news conference in Lviv.
We expect to continue to do day trips. We very much hope that the conditions will permit us to go back into Kyiv by the end of the month.
Buses carried civilians rescued from the bombarded steel plant in Mariupol to safety, and there are plans to evacuate more. This woman says all the time we spent in the bunker, they were bombing. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and a delegation of fellow Democrats met with the Polish president in Warsaw after a secret trip to Kyiv over the weekend.
This is crucial moment in politics for us.
Congressional Democrats are hoping to pass the president's request for an additional $33 billion in Ukraine aid by the end of the month.
President Biden is traveling Tuesday to a Lockheed Martin facility in Alabama that produces Javelin missiles, which is among the weapons the U.S. has provided to Ukraine.
He will deliver remarks about the security assistance we are providing, highlighting the urgency of the request to Congress to pass funding quickly.
Russia's assault rages on in the eastern and southern parts of the country, though Ukrainian forces continue to fight back. Ukraine's naval forces released this video, which they say shows a drone strike on Russian patrol boats in the Black Sea. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
And later this week, First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Romania and Slovakia, where she'll visit with U.S. military members and workers and Ukrainian refugees.